Nope. Like. Welcome to Can Angels Fly, Tarot, and More. My name is Nancy, and here today I'm here to have a little story time. The story that we'll be reading and contemplating on is the story of the three little pigs. But before we begin, I like to submit my personal plugs. I'm a professional tarot reader. So if you're ever interested in ordering your own personal tarot reading, you can do so by contacting me by email. My email is angelsfly, the number one, the D, hello, 1, 2. The actual details you need to order your own personal reading is below this live stream. I ask you, if you enjoy this content, to click on the like button, to share my channel with others. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel. Once you have subscribed to my channel, please locate the notification bell, click on it, so you'll be notified whenever I go live and or upload a video. If you're ever interested in offering me any financial support, you can do so by Cash Apping me. My Cash App link is $ Can Angels Fly Tarot. That is also below this live stream. And last but not least, before we go forward, I like to submit, what is it called? I can't even think what it's called. Anyway, there's a new law out here on YouTube, and it says that that a creator is legally required to comply with the Children Online Privacy Protection Act and or other laws. It says that a creator, namely me, is obligated to tell us if our live stream is made for kids. And of course, I have done appropriate work on my end, but I just want to, include it in this video, that this video is not per se for kids. This is not for kids, even though it is a childhood story that we are told from a young age. Okay. Let's see. He said, let's see, where I got to figure out where I am. Am I here? I'm here. I'm right here. Hello. Hope you are doing well and safe as your family. We are doing fairly well. Hope you're well. That everybody's well. So, it's kind of where everybody kind of self-quarantined now. So, I thought it'd be a good time to make a live. I do apologize ahead of time because my family can be moving around and they noisy. So, as mentioned, today we're going to have some story time. I'm going to literally read the story of the three little pigs to you. And the reason I'm doing so is so that after I read it, we can go back into it and see exactly why we were told this story over and over again as children. Our current circumstance, the events that are taking place, the coronavirus, the hoarding of tissue and water and different things like that, being quarantined, all are real life physical experience that are relatable to the story, The Three Little Pigs. So, first thing I'm going to do is read the story. Hopefully I've done everything I'm supposed to do. Let me see what I should do here. Maybe I should turn this on. Of course, I'm visiting Wikipedia or Wax Source here. So I don't own any of the content. As you can see, once again, it's the story of the Three Little Pigs. It's the English fairy tale by Joseph Jacobs. So let me read. The story of the Three Little Pigs. I hope I can see y'all. The words are kind of small. Once upon a time, when pigs spoke rhyme, and monkeys chewed tobacco, and hens took snuff. I don't know how to make it bigger. I tried, y'all, to make them tough, and ducks went quack, quack, quack. I don't remember that part, but okay, I read it. Okay, now let's commence with the story. We're going somewhere with this, of course. This is quarantine story time. Since there was an old soul with 3 little pigs, and as she had not enough to keep them, she sent them out to seek their fortune. The first that went off met a man with a bundle of straw and said to him, "Please, man, give me that straw to build me a house," which the man did, and the little pig built a house with it. Presently came along a wolf and knocked at the door and said, little pig, let me in." Before I continue to read, let me stop. I had another version of the 3 little pigs that would have been much more suitable, but I wasn't sure if I could read it here online, so I don't even know if I'm like this one, but I'll go ahead and proceed. Anywho, so far we know the mother of the 3 little pigs have exhausted all of her resources and energy, and she says, "I can't take care of y'all no more. It's time for y'all to get out in the world and make your own. Make a name for yourself." And so the first little pig goes out and does what? Runs into a man and asks him to buy the straw to build him a house, which the man did, and the little pig built a house with it. Presently came along a wolf and knocked at the door and said, little pig, let me in." To which the pig answered, "No, no, by the hair of my chinny chin chin." Let's see. I got to get out the way. Come on. Uh-oh, y'all, I might have locked myself in. Okay. Sorry, y'all. Why is this doing this? Want to irritate me? 1 minute move and 1 minute don't. Okay, I was trying to move myself over here, y'all. That's not what I wanted. Okay, y'all. Okay, let's continue. All right. So not by his chinny chin chin, not by the hairs of his chinny chin chin. It says, wolf then answered to that, "Then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house in." So he huffed and he puffed and he blew his house in and ate up the little pig. Oh, I ain't gonna like this one. The second little pig met a man with a bundle of furzy. What's furzy? Okay, and said, "Please, man, give me that furzy to build my house." Now, in the version I know of, as a child, I have to improvise a little bit here because I changed the version. But as a child, the story was told, of course, the mother had exhausted all her energy and resources. Well, she had raised her little children up and said, okay, now it's time for you to go out into the world, make a name for yourself. And so the 3 little pigs, we assume they were brothers, go out to the world. The first pig meets the person with straw and buys the straw and begins to build the house. The other 2 brothers go on. We're on the second brother, and he runs into a man, and he doesn't buy furzy. I don't know what furzy is. He buys wood. Okay. And then he builds a house. Well, we're going to read. It says, and the wolf don't eat the little pig in the version that I grew up, hearing. The little pig, when the first little pig house get raided or ramshacked by the wolf, he run off to his brother's house, to his sibling house, which is made of wood. So anyway, the second little pig met the man with a bundle of furzy and said, please, man, give me that furzy to build a house, which the man did, and the pig built his house. Then along came the wolf and said, little pig, let me come in. No, 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 by the hair of my chinny chin chin. Then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house in. So he huffed and he puffed and he puffed and he huffed. And at last he blew the house down and he ate up the little pig. The third little pig met a man with a load of bricks and said, "Please, man, give me those bricks to build a house with." So the man gave him the bricks, and he built his house with them. So the wolf came, as he did to the other little pigs, and said, little pig, let me come in." "No, no, by the hair on my chinny chin. Then I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in." Well, he huffed, and he puffed, and he huffed, and he puffed, and he puffed, and he huffed, but he could not get the house down. When he found that he could not, with all his huffing and puffing, blow the house down, he said, "Little pig, I know where there is a nice field of turnips." "Where?" said the little pig. "Oh, in Mr. Smith's home field." Oh, I don't remember nothing like this, y'all. Just ride away with me. I'm improvising. I'm going to have to improvise. "And if you will be ready tomorrow morning, I'll call for you, and we will go together and get some for dinner." I never heard this version, but it's funny. I got to stop right here because it talks about how the wolf has made it to the third pig's house. The house is made of brick, and the wolf to put up so much effort to huff and puff and blow this brick house down, but he can't. So he's already tried to assault and attack and raid the pig. He's been a threat. And when he sees it doesn't work, he says, "Okay, well then maybe I can interest you in going to get some turnips. You gonna go with me? You gonna come out your house and go with me to wolf to get some turnips at Mr. Smith Field tomorrow morning." Is you crazy? Anyway, I'm gonna read. This is story time. This is quarantine story time. It says, okay, where said the pig? "Oh, in Mr. Smith's home field, and if you will be ready tomorrow morning, I will call for you, and we will go together and get some dinner." Now, isn't that, okay, they're going to leave out in the morning and go get some dinner. "Okay, very well," said the little pig. "I will be ready. What time do you mean to go?" "Oh, at 6 o'clock. This story already messed up, y'all. He said he's going to call on them in the morning, but they're going to go get some dinner. I could rationalize that. He's going to call on them at 6 o'clock. Well, 6 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the evening. Okay. Anyway, well, the little pig got up at 5. Okay, it was 6 o'clock in the morning. He's calling them. So anyway, the little pig got up at 5 and got the turnips before the wolf came, which he did about 6. Who said, "Little pig, are you ready?" Where am I at? The little pig said, "Ready? I have been and came back again, and I got a nice pot full for dinner." The wolf felt very angry at this, but thought that he would be up to the little pig somehow or other. So he said, "Little pig, I know where there is a nice apple tree." "Where?" said the little pig. "It says down at Mary Garden," replied the wolf. "And if you will not deceive me, I will come for you at 5 o'clock tomorrow." Oh, shoot. "And get some apples." Go on up there, picture. Well, the little pig bustled up the next morning at 4 o'clock and went off for the apples, hoping to get back before the wolf came. But he had further to go and had to climb the tree, so that just as he was coming down from it, he saw the wolf coming, which, as you may suppose, frightened him very much. When the wolf came up, he said, "Little pig, what? Little pig, what? Are you here before me? Are they nice apples?" "Yes, very," said the little pig. "I will throw you one down, and he threw it so far that while the wolf was gone to pick it up, the little pig jumped down and ran home. The next day the wolf came again and said to the little pig, "Little pig, there is a fair at what's that, Shanklin this afternoon. Will you go?" "Oh yes," said the little pig, "I will go. What time shall you be ready?" "At 3," said the wolf. So the little pig went off before the time as usual and got to the fair and bought a butter churn, which he was going home with when he saw the wolf coming. Then he could not tell what to do, so he got into the churn to hide. Y'all, I did not see this I didn't hear this version when I was a kid, but okay. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna just read it. I'm gonna get hip. Okay. So we on the little pig. He got in the butter churn to hide. Where was I at? And by so doing, turned it around, and it rolled down the hill with the pig in it, which frightened the wolf so much that he ran home without going to the fair. He went to the little pig's house and told him how frightened he had been by a great round thing which came down the hill past him. And the little pig said, "Ha! I frightened you then. I frightened you then. I had been to the fair and bought a butter churn, and when I saw you, I got into it and rolled down the hill." Okay. I rolled down the hill. So next. Okay. Oh gosh. Then the wolf was very angry indeed and declared he would eat up the little pig. I know by then he was hungry. That was about 3 days he hadn't ate, trying to get that bacon and pork with them, the bacon, the chitlins, the pork loin and pork chops and big ears, all get cheesy. Oh God. And that he would get down the chimney after him. When the little pig saw what he was about, he hung on the pot full of water. He hung on the pot full of water and made up a blazing fire. And just as the wolf came down, took off the cover, and in fell the wolf. So the little pig put on the cover again, and an instant boiled him up and ate him for supper. Oh my God. And lived happily ever after. That's a funny story. That's a funny story, y'all. Oh man, I wish I knew how to get the writing bigger. That's a funny story. Anywho, no, not that one. I want this off. Yeah. And me back. Yeah, that works. I'm gonna put me over here. Before I go any further, as shared, I use that story because it's on wax source, and so I do believe that's like free reign as far as teaching and different things like that and doing research. The other source I had was a much better story, and it was like the one I heard growing up. So here is a version of the story that I heard growing up. Again, the mother of the 3 little pigs had done her job. She had raised the little pigs, taught them all that she knew. One day she tells them, "Okay, y'all, it's time for y'all to go out into the world and make a name for yourself." So the 3 little pigs set out to make a name for themselves, to build their own life. The first little pig bought straw from a man and built his house out of straw. The other 2 pigs continued on their journey until the second little pig ran into a man with sticks, and he bought the sticks from the man and built him a house made of sticks. The third little pig kept on his journey, and eventually he met a man that was selling bricks, and he bought all of the bricks and made him a home. The story goes that the first little pig that bought the straw built his house up in a few hours. And the second little pig, of course, it took a little longer, maybe a whole day. And so the little pigs that made their house of straw and stick both were laughing hysterically at their brother who was still laboring building his house of brick. And tell them, why would you do that? You don't have to do that. You can do what we do and have your free time to do what you want to do, or we can go have fun or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And the little pig said, nope, that's not what I was taught. And so the little pig kept on. He ended up building his brick house and put all the windows in, a little chimney in, and a door with a lock. He went all out. As the story progressed, here comes the wolf through the forest and knocks on the door of the pig house that's made of straw. And the little pig, of course, doesn't let him in, so the wolf does what? Huff and puff, and he instantly blows his house in. The little pig is frightened, horrified, takes off running, and runs to the house of the pig that built his house with stick. And he banging on the door like, bro, let me in. And the little pig, that house is made of stick. Of course, he opened the door and he houses his brother. So they think they're safe. The next day, the wolf comes along through the forest and gets to the second pig's house and huffs and puffs and blows that house in. And the two little pigs run off and they get to their oldest brother's house, the one that built his house of brick. And they banging on the door saying, hey, bro, let us in. The wolf after us, he done blew our house in. And so the other older brother opened the door and let the two pigs in. And so the three little pigs were in the brick house, and they were eating and living merrily. And next day, here comes the wolf. Came around the house, built the brick, banging on the door saying, open his door. And he say, not by the hair of my chinny chin chin. And the wolf says, what? I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house in. The story goes that the wolf huffed and puffed so many times till he passed out. When he came through, he thought of another plan to get access to the pigs, get in the house and get access to the pigs. And so he climbed up outside of the house onto the roof, and the little pigs inside heard him outside of the house scaling the house and walking across the roof. So they did set a blazing fire in the chimney and put a hot pot of water on that fire. And when the wolf came down the chimney, he fell into the pot of water and it killed him. And then the three little pigs lived happily ever after. Now that's the story I grew up hearing. At this time, I just want to read a little something else. Remember, this is quarantine story time, and we are going through and reading the story, childhood story of the three little pigs for a purpose. The purpose is to come to understand why, as children, we were told this fairy tale or fable over and over again. And why now? Why do I cover this story? Story? It is because what is occurring now in our real-time life events is why we were taught and read the story, The Three Little Pigs. Let me make it make sense along the way. So at this time, I want to visit Wikipedia again. Let me see if I can make this work or not. Okay. Let's see. Ooh, the writing is so small. Let me see what I can possibly do. Let me get over here. I'm peeking around the corner right here, y'all. Of course, again, I'm at Wikipedia, and what am I doing? Reading some the inserts for, The Three Little Pigs. And it says, The Three Little Pigs is a fable about three pigs who built three houses of different materials. A big bad wolf blew down the first two pigs' house made of straw and stick, respectively, but is unable to destroy the third pig's house made of brick. Okay, we have covered that. Let's see. It says many versions of the Three Little Pigs have been recreated or have been modified over the years, sometimes making the wolf a kind character. It is a type B24 folk tale in the Emmy Thomas classification system. That's interesting. I want to know what that is. I'm gonna try to click on it in a minute. But the reason why I read that was to show that, again, the fairy tales, namely the Three Little Pigs, has been modified to be able to be read to different cultures and different things in different ways to convey a message. And so today we're going to talk about the message that this particular folklore or fable was conveying to us as children, and why it is a classic, and it has stayed popular. So I want to know what that Thompson classification system is, because it says that the story of the Three Little Pigs, it is a type B124, a type B124 folktale in Amy Thompson classification system, which is interesting. But before I go there, because once I go there, let's see, traditional versions of the Three Little Pigs was, listen, the traditional version of the Three Little Pigs was included in the Nursery Rhymes of England by James Phillips. The story in its arguably best known form appeared in English Fairy Tales by Jacobs, first published in 1890. That's interesting. The first time the story of the Three Little Pigs, which was written to convey a message to children from a very young age, was in 1890. The earliest published version of the story is from, was it Dartmoor in 1853. Oh, a minute. The earliest version published was in 1853. It has three little pixies in the place of pigs. So we know the story. It talks about early versions, latter adaptions of the story Three Little Pigs. Why am I reading over this? Because I'm trying to look at the depth or the extent in which the story or the concept and the message that the Three Little Pigs offer has been infused into humanity, the cultures in humanity. And so we have earlier versions as early as 1853, all the way up into, of course, into current. It says latter adaptions, Disney cartoons. The most well-known version of the story is the award-winning 1933. What's that say? Silly Symphony? Is that what it say? Silly Symphony. Cartoon, which was produced by Walt Disney. The production cast. I'm reading. The production cast the title character as Fiddler Pig, Practical Pig. The first two are depicted as both feverish, frivolous, and arrogant. That's interesting. So what is it talking about here? It's talking about other versions of how the characters were depicted by Walt Disney in 1933. And it says rather than the two little pigs that were the pigs that built their house of straw and of stick, they were characters that had the character traits of being frivolous, not wanting to spend a lot of money. That was the straw pig, of course. And then the arrogant pig, probably the one that made, that might have been the one that made their house of brick. Could be. I don't see how sticks have to do with arrogance. And then we have latter adaptions of the same story by Warner Brothers and MGM. Let's see. We have retellings. I'm just looking. Okay, that's the end of that. Very okay. So, right now, what was something? Oh, I want to see what this is. Remember that the Three Little Pigs is a type B124 folktale. And what is this? let's see, is a catalog of, what's that? Folktale. Oh, is a catalog of folktale types used in folklore studies. Folklore studies. That the ATU. What am I looking at now? It was just the previous page showed that, or shared that, the Three Little Pigs, that story, is in a category. And so I went over to the next page to see if I can get any information about what that category consists of. The ATU index is the product of a series of revisions and expansions by an international group of scholars, originally composed in German by Finnish folklorist. Okay, we know the person is a Finnish folklore. The index was translated into English and revised and expanded by the American folklore, and later revised and expanded German. Is an essential tool for folklorists. It's an index for folklorists. It says definition of tale types. Okay. So, definition of tale types. A type is a traditional tale that has an independent existence. It may be told as a complete narrative and does not depend for its meaning on any other tale. Does not depend on any. Yes?
Can't need that mucus stuff too.
It's in there. All the medicines are in there. It may indeed happen to be told with another tale. Okay, in junction with another tale. But the fact that it may be told alone attests its independence. It may consist of only one motif or of many. So, Mucinex. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Is it for her or?
It's for me and her.
Oh, she feeling something too?
I can put this in my tea.
I don't know. Read the instructions. And that's, y'all read the instructions. Yeah. So before we go, I ain't finished my thought. Yeah, if people in my home are displaying some cold symptoms, it's nothing insane. You know, it's the, oh shoot, gosh dang it, I'm not gonna worry about it. How do I turn this off? I was gonna finish reading that, but I don't know how to go back, and I don't even know where it took me. Well, I don't know what I hit on. I'm so angry. I know. Mm. And oh shoot. Okay. So I can't say that anybody in my house has the coronavirus. They are displaying, some people, family members are displaying like a runny nose and or congestion and things like that. So far, nothing severe. Just typical. So, I was gonna say something else, I forgot. Okay. Well, I came back here for it because it was, I wanted to just keep scrolling down the page. And so it said that the story of the Three Little Pigs is classified as what, a B124 type of folklore. That is to say, it's a particular type of folklore. Either it's a folklore or a child's tale that can be, isolated or be in connection or conjunction with another fairy tale, like the story continues or the life lesson expands. And I can't recall any other story that the Three Little Pigs was directly associated with. So I'm assuming, without great investigation or research, that it is one of those. It is a type B124, because maybe it's a what do you call it? It only has maybe one, complete motif, or it's within itself. It's self-contained, the story. Like when you start talking other folklore or cultural lures that I believe may be a different type of tale, is stories like Beowulf, and I can't think of it. What's the name of that other one? I can't think of the name, because it'll jump. I can't think of this character's name, but this character seems to be all over the place in different tales, and it tales keep talking about or dealing with different life experiences that are relative. So I think that's what it means. Let's see. Oh, here goes systems. Y'all look here. It says 510A Cinderella. Cinderella in the system, in this index system of tales, is a 510A Cinderella. And it says a young woman who was mistreated by her stepmom. We know that story. And has to live in the ashes as a servant. When the sisters and stepmom go to the ball church, they give Cinderella an impossible task: sorting peas from ashes, which she accomplishes with the help of birds. She's obtains beautiful clothing from a supernatural being. Look how it's categorized. Isn't that's so interesting? Everything is so interesting to me. How there are so many different, aspects associated with anything. As a child, you don't think about you're not even aware as a child that the fairy tales that you are being read at bedtime or nap time are significant to teaching you about the world. You have no idea, no concept. It's like when you start living life and having life experiences, for some, it dawns on you like, dang, that's what Cinderella went through. But prior to you really starting to live your life and have your life experiences, do you even draw the correlation between childhood tales and true life experiences? And then to take it a step further, that there are people that their field of expertise is the writing of such folklores and fairy tales. That's their job. And then there's other people now, or down through the century, that were basically commissioned with categorizing the various fairy tales into different classifications and literally giving them codes. That's some deep stuff. I went to school for the wrong thing. I was sweating for nothing. So anyway, so we got Cinderella, and what I went on that little rant because as we read through this Cinderella insert under the systems, if you pay attention just to the first line, it says a young woman is mistreated by her stepmother and stepsisters, and it's followed by like a source or something or a citing. I don't know if that's S31L55. That has a meaning. What's that meaning? And then when you read into the next sentence, it says, which she accomplished with the help of birds. And it's followed by the code B450, which means something. That is significant. Does the B450, this code, classify characters that have been assisted by birds in some way? And that overall has a meaning or a significance or a symbolic of something. That's interesting. And it even goes on and says she obtained beautiful clothing from a supernatural being. And it's followed by the code D1050 period 1 comma N815. That means something. And then it goes on and it says, or a tree that grows on the grave of her deceased mother, followed by what? A code D815 period 1 comma D842, and on and on. It has a meaning. It's so significant. Did you understand that folklores and fairy tales were so significant, so relevant to a culture, and were used to begin to teach life from the moment you a wee little thing? Did you know that? So, going down, and I'm gonna let this go. Just looking. Critical responses. That's why I don't know where to focus my energy at, to be truthfully honest, y'all, in my life, because as a researcher, I follow the different clues, or the different inserts associated with anything, and it keeps branching off into other fields or areas. So where do you focus at? Where do you focus at? Where do you focus at? Especially when you have been miseducated your whole life. I've been miseducated my whole life, so I feel like at this point in time in my life, I'm just catching up. I really am. I'm just catching up, and it's overwhelming. Use in folklorist. Let's see, and that's it. Okay, so we're done with that, y'all. What have we been doing? Because y'all know I'm long-winded. Where's that little picture at? There's our little picture. What have I been doing? Since this live stream began, we read the story of a particular version of the Three Little Pigs. Then I shared the version that I grew up hearing. Now, I want to talk a little bit about, where is it at? It's over here. This tower card over here. The tower card is, as you can see at the top, is the number 16 major arcana card. And the tower card represents unforeseen events, sudden happenings that, shock us. It can incite fear. Sometimes we cause these things to happen. Sometimes others cause these things or events to happen. And the happenings actually destabilize a person's life. And that certainty, that destabilization, is a catalyst for an individual to look at the circumstances or situations that they find themselves sitting in or experiencing, and allows them, again, it's a trigger, and it allows them the insight to be able to say, hey, this is a time period right now that you can make some revisions. You can revive something, because what you are, the method that you are using now, or the foundation that you have laid, is something wrong with it, and ultimately it will collapse. It is it will be detrimental. Will be detrimental in some way. As mentioned early on, this live stream is it is a quarantine story time, and it focuses around, or is relative to, the COVID-19, or the coronavirus disease, however you like to label it. And so right now I'm about to go into comparison. So first of all, I want to talk about the Three Little Pigs mother. And the Three Little Pigs mother's a couple of, attributes about this character is that, number one, it's a pig. Why did they choose a pig? When we were just reading Wikipedia, it said the earlier versions were, the characters were fairies. So why did they choose to change it from fairies to pigs? I have a theory. The next thing is that there is not a father there. In the story, it's the mother, and that's significant because that represents the feminine energy. So, still talking about the Three Little Pigs' mother. I believe that they chose the pig as the character because pigs are synonymous with overindulgence and consumption, um, and to overconsume um, and high consumption are the trademarks of a consumer. To me, since the early 1800s, the powers that were had a plan, and people saw it. And the plan was to make the average person, the what do you call it, the what they call the people at the time, pilgrims or whatever they were, just the stereotypical population, consumers. That was the plan, and it makes sense in relationship to everything we studied on my channel about society and civilization and the authorities and all that kind of stuff. And so they wanted the people to be consumers, not farmers. What's they call them? Not pilgrims. They were I forgot what they used to call them. The people. And so I believe that's why they chose the pig as the character. The next thing, why was it just the mother and not the father? Well, the feminine energy represents, or I'll say what it does not represent, is a pushback or resistance, or somebody that's actively involved in whatever's happening. The person just really pays attention to what happens and does what they learn, what they can learn in order to offset the hardship. The feminine energy is very nurturing. It is supposed to be caring, nurturing, caring, supportive. It is very instructive, and it does actively provide, again, what those up under its care need. That's why the story opens up with Mother Pig. And so the Mother Pig did her job, we could say, as a widow or single woman or pig. And when I say Miss Pig, it could be a man too in reality, because remember these are folklore, so they were teaching us from a young age the world and life and how to move forward successfully. So the Mother Pig represents, a person, whether male or female, that is in charge of caregiving for others or another, and is socially engineered to be a consumer, having very little power to change the governing forces. And so a person has to learn how to navigate such an existence. And the Mother Pig has done that. She has successfully raised 3 little pigs, 3 little more consumers, and have taught them everything she knows, or he knows. And the day finally comes that these 3 little pigs come to age, and the mother say, hey, or the caregiver says, I done gave you all that I have. I taught you everything I know. You know what I'm saying? Understand this, 3 little pigs. We are socially engineered to be consumers. And because we're socially engineered to be consumers, and the powers that be have their hand in our pocket, there are certain things that we should do in order to move forward in life and have a reasonable quality of life. And so now we're going to go to the next stage. Hopefully it's making sense to you. So now the 3 little pigs set out to make a name for themselves. The first little pig came across a man and said, hey, in one version, can you give me the straw? In another version, it said, can I buy the straw? And the man obliges, and the pig acquires the straw. The pig takes the straw, which is a fairly cheap or much more economical material, I'll say. Remember, we're paralleling the childhood fairy tale or fable to real life to see why we were told these stories as children. We were being educated from the moment we came out about life, about the challenges, about how to overcome them, and so much more. So, the first little pig went to work while the other two pigs moved on down the road. The first little pig builds a straw house or hut, however you like to label it. The straw hut or house may have had a door or not. Of course, the design of huts are different. But the reality is the structure of the straw house was not well thought out, wasn't well planned. It was probably tied together with straw and different things like that and twined together. So when a wolf came along, he was able to huff and puff one time and literally blow the house down. Now, what does this pig who built his house of straw represent in our society? Well, it represents a person that takes shortcuts, literally, shortcuts. See, the little pig's mama at some point in time told him, don't take shortcuts. The little pig's mom told him at some point in time, hey, don't misuse your resources. The Bible says, don't cast your pearl among swine. Say, don't misuse your resources. Don't just, give them away. So this pig can represent somebody that's, and another thing about this particular pig is he didn't want to spend a lot of time building his house. He wanted to go have fun. The story I was introduced to when I was younger, it was about that pig going out to have fun. And he felt really great about himself because he had built his house in no time. And then he had plenty of time for fun. But we know that that's not how that pig was raised. We know that. And how do we know it? Well, I got to go back to the childhood version of the three little pigs. I know. Because the third little pig, the oldest pig, his, a narrative, told everything his mother had informed them about growing up, in their upbringing. And so they this little pig right here went against everything he had been taught by his caregiver. So what does the wolf represent? Keeping with the current events that are unfolding, the wolf can represent the coronavirus itself. It's just some threat that comes up in life or challenge that comes up in life, some expected circumstance, a situation, or event that pops up in life. And it comes to you all of a sudden, just like the Tower card, unexpectedly. And it huffs and it puffs. And the question is, can it blow your house in? Now, your house represents your resources. Remember, this house over here was built with a resource. It's just a cheaper resource that wasn't well constructed, well planned, and was executed quickly without much thought, preparation, or nothing. This is just resources. So, how can I say this? I need to make it make sense. Now that we are dealing with the events that we're dealing with, the coronavirus scare and the quarantine stuff and, the hoarding or the lack of, the question is, the onset of the threat, the coronavirus, were you ready? Or did you do with this little pig that built his house of straw? Did you find that this little pig represents you? Did you find that you didn't already have toilet tissue in your house? Did you find you didn't have any canned goods? You didn't have no water? Did you find you was out partying, hanging, or going to the casino, or gambling, or giving your money away, or doing whatever you do, drinking, I don't know what you do, just hanging out, throwing your money up a wild hog's anus at the onset? And you found that you were very vulnerable at the onset of this threat. See, what am I saying? I'm saying that this childhood fairy tale that we learned was teaching us not to take shortcuts. Like, I'll pay part of my bills now and I'll catch up later. You know, I'll go out and party all night long and I won't save any extra money. I'll procrastinate and I'll go to the grocery store next week. See, this childhood folklore is supposed to put into our subconscious a framework that would help us manage our lives throughout our lives. But for some, they didn't get this message. And they did what? And they have done what? They have built their house of straw. And the house of straw looks like not paying one's mortgage or rent due to being lascivious and just misappropriating the funds. A person didn't pick up their prescriptions from the pharmacy when they were supposed to. Person was out gambling and drinking and wanting to have fun. And then the big bad wolf comes. The coronavirus comes. And it huffs and it has puffed. And it has blew many people's houses in. These people find that they don't have a surplus of food, emergency food. They don't have any backup savings. They don't have cough medicine or anything, or the rent is already behind, or the utilities are on the verge of getting shut off. That's what they found. And so what happened in the story? This little pig that built this house of straw took off running to the next sibling's house. The sibling opens the door, like, what up, bro? A sis, neighbor, cousin. Like, hey, this coronavirus, this big bad wolf, has huffed and puffed and blew my house in. Can I come visit you? Can I come stay with you? Can I get a loan from you? And brother say, come on in. Brother pig number 2 say, come on in. As we know, the second pig met a man and asked to buy or have the wood that he had in order to build his house. And so this brother built his house of wood. And what does this brother who built his house of wood represent? It could represent, I'm not even going to cover, I might cover, I don't know, let it go. This particular brother represents, again, the use of a more affordable material. Of course, is more high quality than the straw. So the brother did think a little more wisely, a little more in depth, I'll say, when it came to his selection of materials to build a house with. So this brother is like the middle brother. And so you remember, he learned everything he learned from his mother pig. So he took some things into advice, but he did what? He shortcut to. He didn't get the best. He didn't do the best. This brother could be an example of a person that was so preoccupied with meeting the imposed demands of man, like going to work and not making time for oneself to do what one needs to do for themselves, to secure themselves. I'm going to give you an example of this. Like, I've been hearing on different social medias that a lot of public transportation drivers or bus drivers or train drivers have tested positive for the coronavirus. That's interesting. Now, I understand that our system needs to keep running. We don't want it to collapse. However, once the threat of being infected with the coronavirus was known, people like in the transportation field, a sector, should have, say, hey, we need to have a meeting. We need to have protective gear, because you have to look out for yourself before anybody else. And so this little pig represents people like that. It represents a person that has the minimal. I mean, the bare minimal. A person that may go shopping every day or every week, you know what I'm saying? Those kind of things. So when an emergency happened, they weren't well prepared for one reason or another. And what happens? Here come the big bad wolf. He huff, he puff. He blows this little pig's house in as well. And the story says then the two little pigs, the pig that made his house of straw, as well as the pig that made his house of wood, take off running and goes to what? The older brother's house. And remember, they were cracking up. They was laughing. They was having them a good old roast and laugh at the older brother as they watched him slay day after day, moment after moment, hour after hour, and day after day to build up his brick house. I forgot to put a chimney up there because he had to have a chimney. So that's what he built, and that's why he got the brick in his house. And he building the chimney on the house. And they laughed at him. But what they found out is that at the end of the day, by the end of the tale, they had to go running off and beating on their older brother's door. They had to go beat on a person's door, or this represents a person that has to go to another to ask for assistance. This person, this pig that made his house of brick, represents people that are preppers, like doomsday preppers. They prepared. These are when people, what's the preparation? Opportunity meets preparation or something like that. So these are people that have prepped, they have prepared. They are aware, that it's always a potential for our system to break down for one reason or another. This little pig represents somebody who has already enough tissue at least for a month. This little pig represents somebody who has canned goods. This is a little pig that represents a person that shops reasonably. This little pig is very practical and rational individual. They are like, sure enough, the controlling factor in their life. They make sure, like I say, this little pig doesn't procrastinate. They need to do what needs to be done in the moment, no matter what. This little pig sacrifices, these kind of things for a time such as this. And this little pig is to me represented by like the Capricornian energy in astrology, where it's very slow, very steady, very practical. It is efficient, and it doesn't miss anything. Again, if a person needs to sacrifice, or to save for a rainy day, they do it because they know that in a long haul or on that rainy day, there's going to be something that they may need, like a little extra money or whatever the case may be, a little extra space for visitors, whatever the case may be. So when a time such as this comes, or the big bad wolf comes, he keeps huffing and puffing and can't blow this little pig's house in. This little pig's house is made with a high quality natural material that is known to be stable and sturdy and stable, very durable. And not only that, this little pig went the extra mile. And how did he go the extra mile? To build the chimney. Because the chimney offered him what? And he put doors and everything, doors and windows on his house. It offered that little pig the ability to secure his investment. This little pig invested his time, his energy, and resources in making sure that he was okay for the long haul. Obviously, it wasn't just for him, but those that may depend upon him or that would be up under his care. And so he put all those little extra energy into building his house. And because he put forth that extra energy, and he did the extra work, and he put in, I was gonna say something else. Got people outside; they don't care about no quarantine. And he built a chimney, And that little chimney offered him a little extra comfort, like when the seasons change. So this pig went above and beyond the call of duty. As mentioned, I do believe that the original fairies that are associated with this tale were replaced with pigs because pigs are consumers, high with an overindulgence, and I think that represents the consumer. So when we go back over the pigs, we got the mother pig who has lived her life. She's older, of course, than her children, and she has come to understand that she's a consumer. She's been socially engineered to do so. She also realizes that she has to care for not only herself but 3 other little living beings, and they're also consumers. They also need food and clothes and things like that. She comes to understand how she had to manage what she had to take care of them. She passed that information on to them. But as they went off into their own to live their own lives, they made their own choices. The little pig that built his house of straw was a consumer as well, of course, as mentioned. And he took his resources and he squandered them on fun and bought the cheapest or most affordable materials. The second little pig was a consumer as well. And that little pig put forth a little more, or invested a little more into his well-being and his life, but took shortcuts. But that third little pig learned everything that his mother pig taught him. He understood that he was a consumer. He understood he only had so many resources. All he had were the bricks that the man gave him or that he was able to purchase. And that he had to do the best he could do with what he had. And he had to make it so that his investment would be worth it and it would give him something back. Well, ultimately, this pig experience was that his investment of his energy, the appropriation of his resources and funds, investment of his funds and appropriation of his resources, appropriation of his resources, I don't know if I said that right, brought him what? Security. Not only him, but his brothers. And so when that big bad wolf came his way, the corona or any other unexpected event came his way, and it huffed and it puffed, it couldn't blow down what he had invested in because it was well thought out, planned, practical, and structured. So I hope that made sense to y'all. This is a story about the 3 little pigs and why we grew up hearing about this tale. This tale was preparing us from a wee little age for a time such as this. At this time, you should be able to see which little pig you are. Are you the pig that took shortcuts and had a lot of fun, and as we move through this time, you realize like you're not prepared for it. You're not psychologically prepared for it or physically prepared for it. Did you learn? Have you learned? And this is the thing. Learning vicariously through other means than having to go through it yourself. This is what little story fairy tales are about. Or now, do you look and say, well, I'm that little pig with the wood. I kind of took some shortcuts and now I'm paying for them. Or do you look and say, well, I'm that little pig that built my house with brick. And right now, as we move through this thread, I'm cool. I ain't tripping. I'm able to self-quarantine myself because I got enough tissue at home. My bills are paid or they're reasonable. You know what I'm saying? Those kind of things. If you cannot say that you are at least the pig with the sticks, excuse me, the pig with the sticks, hopefully the pig with the bricks, then that suggests that you have a lot to learn. Depending on your age, You've been hearing this story for years upon years. And I forgot what I was going to say. My family moving around, y'all throwing me off. But I didn't want to hold y'all long. I just wanted to explore the little story. So hopefully, hopefully after this experience, you become him, the person or the consumer that will build your life with the best materials. Until next time, y'all. Bye.